We are back, and we are joined by our good friend of the show, Jeet here, national affairs correspondent for The Nation, host of the weekly Nation podcast, The Time of Monsters. Jeet, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, great to be on.
So, you watched the Harris interview. I'm assuming we started with that clip of her just basically dismissing Trump, trying to goad her into talking about race and her gender, about how she just turned black.
It's a chameleon.
And yeah, exactly. And
That
that was a
actually her
good
best
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually think that's like the best moment because it really captures the tenure of the campaign, which is like not to get into the mud with Trump on this stuff, to be dismissive, and also, I mean, I thought the phrase she used was it like the same old, right? Like
Same old playbook, yeah.
same old playbook, which actually is actually like deeper than it first seems, because I actually think a big problem for Trump is he's been around too long. He's been a national figure now for almost 10 years in national politics. This is his third running for the president, right? And like you have to go back to William Jennings Bryan,
Yeah.
or Franklin Roosevelt, who actually won the popular vote. So people are like, I think, tired of Trump, and tired of. I mean, I think there's some Democrats who say like, well, they point out some outrageous, obscene, vile, misogynist thing that Trump posts on True Social and says, why isn't the media talking about this? Well, I think the people who know that Trump is a misogynist already know that, have known that for a long time, and you don't need to like underscore this stuff.
And also, it's what they like.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, she's not playing into those hands there because, first of like, people like his cruelty and his callousness. I mean, that's what his base likes in particular. So when you point it out, you're just reinforcing what they like. And then to make it about the same old playbook, you're saying, okay, I'm the change candidate, even though I'm the sitting vice president for a guy that is deeply unpopular, which is a really difficult tightrope to walk.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I mean, I think that's a big part of the appeal. I mean, she actually has put herself forward as the I'm something new. You thought you were going to just get Trump versus Biden, and like now this is a chance to turn the page on that whole chapter of history, which I think most people find just an extremely distasteful period. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was a very sharp response, and worth kind of pointing out. And also, I mean, the other thing is, if you respond in any detail to like Trump's idiocy on this, you're like engaging the battle on the front that he wants to fight it at. He wants this to be about, like how black is Kamala Harris. So like you don't want to fight him on that ground. You want to fight the battle on the grounds that you're winning at. So I mean, I thought it's a good indication that I think she's the first Democrat to really pull that off, to try to make this into a post-Trump argument.
Right, and presenting herself as a way to move on from that period of politics, of Trumpism, to that degree. And again, so much of his appeal to his base is about triggering the libs. So what do? Don't get triggered.
Don't get triggered. Yeah, I have to, exactly, and I have to say, like that base itself, like my sense is that it's not growing. Like I mean, in some ways, he's like a nostalgiac now. Like if you look at his rallies, like he often has the same people. He foregrounds them, the Blacks for Trump people and others, but it is like a Grateful Dead concert, like in 2015 or something, or whenever the last time the Grateful Dead played. Like it is like an act that has an appeal to a certain audience, but it's not like racking up the charts in the way it used to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's turn to her answer on the economy here. This was her strongest section, in addition to what we talked about with the dismissing of Trump, because she's defending Biden's economic record better than Biden ever did. Ever.
Yeah.
People who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I
Hold on.
recognize that.
Is that the right?
A time code issue.
We just have a bit of an
Oh,
issue.
okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
okay.
It's the other. It's part one, Matt. Sorry. CNN cut this up on YouTube in 3 different sections. So
Okay.
apologies about that.
Yeah, I figured that wasn't the clip that you wanted to have, but we can return to that clip in a.
We can
later.
get to that later. Yeah. So this was the part where she's asked about the economy.
One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging, what we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years, what we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited. I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that anymore.
You maintain Bidenomics is a success.
Oh my
I
God.
maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity.
Okay, so wanted that full explanation there. She did a good job in responding to some of those questions. Now, the housing piece, I wish we weren't making home ownership so central to the economy. But like, I have to be, and I wish she was emphasizing more like the building of housing and bringing down rental prices by attacking corporate landlords. These are things she's proposed, but this is about the general election pivot where they feel like they are going for the middle class family, right? Driving up those numbers. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the housing, I mean, she isn't actually even going as far as Biden himself did, where, you know, like in that last desperate bid to save his presidency, he was like coming out in favor of rent control. So, yeah, I mean, it is a more kind of mainstream appeal than is possible. I mean, like Biden himself has shown, you can call for national rent control and be a Democrat. But having said that, no, I do think it's a good message on the economy. It's partially just because it's sort of coherently delivered. Like with Biden making the same points, like it did not just stick in the public. There's a few issues where Biden had actually retreated from. There's a period about a year ago where Biden started to talk about price gouging, partially because he's prodded to by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And that was polling very well. But then they retreated from that because they got complaints from the donor class.
Yeah.
So it's actually good to see her. That I think that's actually more broadly true of her messaging. That it is like much less conflict averse than Biden. Biden was a very conflict averse candidate. He wanted to not offend anyone as much as possible. And so here, I think we're seeing a couple of cases where she's actually willing to take people on.
Oh my God, yes, you're totally right about that. And Axios reported the other day that she brought back this like DNC lawyer who had been central to Elias to combating Republicans on election law. Biden quietly had parted ways with him last year because he was being too aggressive in combating Republicans, and they thought that would scare away moderates to some degree. I mean, the level, that's the point, is that I'm energized by the willingness to engage in making your ideas to the American public as opposed to doing the nonsense triangulation that the Biden campaign ideologically and his team was obsessed with. And like even with abortion, the reports were that his top advisor, Mike Donilon, was telling him that the reason the Democrats did well in 2022 in the midterms and that there was not a red wave was because of his moderate position on abortion, because of his personal Catholicism and things like that. And I mean, the Democrats did well on that issue in spite of you, dude, not because of anything you did.
Yeah, no. I will remind viewers and listeners, I think they're aware of this, but it's worth underscoring. Joe Biden was not on the ballot in 2022 and hasn't been on the ballot in all these special elections where the Democrats are overperforming. And it was actually a real grassroots effort to like sort of foreground abortion, sometimes in the defiance of party leadership, that has actually made this the winning issue that it's turned out to be. So absolutely. I mean, I think when they do a mini series about all this, the greatest moment will be when Nancy Pelosi's talking to Biden and says, put Donilon on the phone.
Yeah.
Meaning that, I want to actually take issue with the numbers that Donilon's giving you because they're fraudulent. And I think that on the abortion front and the sort of shift in messaging, I think the shift in messaging from the Biden democracy message to the Harris freedom message, I don't think people recognize enough that a lot of that is driven by reproductive freedom. That's a way of making reproductive freedom more valuable, and also a way of making the whole issue of democracy less abstract. It's not like when people think of democracy, think of, I vote every 2 years, or I vote more likely every 4 years. And there's these guys in Washington that say a lot of things that I don't really understand. But freedom is actually something very central to the lived experience of Americans in politics. It's the freedom to be able to get an abortion when you need it, or more broadly the freedom not to have to pay thousands of dollars for medicine that you actually need to stay alive. So there's been a more general shift from sort of very abstract arguments to very concrete arguments.
From solemn patriotic duty to this is what we're going to do for you. That's, I mean, the joy piece, right? You can be cynical about it, of course, and we're about to play her pretty awful answer on Israel policy, but that it's about almost positive rights versus this defensive posture that was embodied both in the messaging from the Biden campaign and in the strategy too. But I will also say, media critique, it's sometimes tired, but those questions from Dana Bash, like, I mean, it's insane. It's insane. So you embrace Bidenomics. Like, there's no, they keep saying how she's not detailed enough on her economic policies, right? And the Times and the Washington Post, they're putting out these pieces about that. But she is being detailed. She was explicit in that, especially when you compare it to Donald Trump, who's saying nothing. They just don't like the answer about price gouging, so they're trying to hit her and say that she's not detailed enough, when that's not even the correct critique about this, if you want to make a critique.
Yeah, no. Although, I mean, not to defend Dana Bash, but I do Bash, yeah. But I do think that the point about Bidenomics, the one reason why it kind of works as a hit was that there was a point where people forget all this, but like about a year or two ago, the Biden White House, their whole thinking was at that point, well, we just have to embrace Bidenomics and say Bidenomics is working and the economy is great and things are wonderful. And so at that, I mean, I think that lingering memory of that moment, which was like a terrible argument, and it's very different from the argument that Harris is making, where her whole argument is like, like, we've done good things, but there's a lot more work to do, and here's what I'm going to do for you, which is a future-oriented message, and which is a message of like, like actually promising things for people, rather than like, you should be grateful. I'm the great defender of democracy, and I've already given you a wonderful economy.
Right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.